Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our season finale of ELTea Time MENA, which, as you know, is our coffee break style advancing learning podcast series. Normally, for each episode, I'm joined by an educator who is based here in the Middle East and North Africa region. And we engage in a 30 to 45-minute discussion on a topic of their choosing. But today, because it's the last in the season, we are actually inviting a guest who is not based here in MENA, but who is still very close to our hearts. It is, of course, Thom Kiddle. Thom, I don't think you need much of an introduction, but let me tell everybody a little bit about who you are. Of course, for those of you who know Thom, he is the director at NILE, which is the Norwich Institute of Language Education. And of course, he's based in Norwich itself in the UK. He has extensive English language teaching, assessment, training experience across the world. He taught, I think, first of all, after his CELTA in Portugal, in Lisbon, which is, if anybody's been there, an absolutely beautiful city. It's a fabulous city, Lisbon. But he's also taught in Australia, Thailand, the UK, and Chile as well. He's got, like I said, a CELTA, he's got Delta, he's also got an MA in language testing as well. So I think he's got a lot of experience, and I'm sure a lot of things that he can share with us in this very short podcast. So Thom, for you, this is morning, because I know it's 10 o'clock in the UK. So good morning to you, and welcome to the MENA podcast. Of course, we're really happy to have you with us today.
Good morning, Nathan. Thanks very much to you for the invite, and hello to everybody who's watching and listening. Pleasure to come to you from slightly cloudy Norwich on the first day of July. So building up to a busy summer here in Norwich.
Can you believe that, yeah, that's half the year gone yesterday? That's crazy, right?
It is incredibly fast, as ever, when we look back, but I think particularly the way that the last 3 years has kind of almost blurred into one time mass. It feels like it was only 2019 a couple of months ago.
It does, yeah. Okay, before we get into the topic that we're going to chat about, do you have tea? Are you a tea drinker, Thom?
Absolutely. I have what's known commonly in England as builder's tea, which is a standard supermarket brand of black tea with milk, of course, and a little sugar just to get me a kick for the morning.
You sound like
cheers.
You sound like you drink the same tea that I drink, actually. Yeah, English breakfast tea, cold milk on the side, a little bit of sugar. When I lived in Manchester, they used to say my tea was baked bean color. Is that yours? Dark?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I quite like a milky tea. I don't know why, but I always love the taste of milk. So a milky tea is good for me.
Yes, and we have good milk in the UK as well. So I actually, because it's 41 degrees here, I actually have iced tea. I've got apple and elderflower iced tea, which I bought on the way in.
Wow, that sounds very very refreshing. I haven't had iced tea for a long time.
It's the first non-hot tea that I've had in all the episodes. This is 16. So I've done 15 different flavors of tea throughout this season. And I've tried some really weird and wonderful ones. I had chocolate and hazelnut. I've had lots of fruits, the classics. So yeah, lots of tea in this podcast. If anybody's joining us, I see people already in the chat box, Lebanon, Kuwait, Algeria, Upper Egypt. They say they like milk and tea as well. If you're drinking tea, do let us know. I can also see the Facebook page as well. So if you're drinking tea, do let us know what your favorite tea is as well. It's nice to see what people like to drink. Okay, Thom, so I gave, probably a very, very brief introduction into who you are, but let's hear from you. Why don't you give us a little bit of background? How did you get into English language teaching? Why did it interest you in the first place? And how's your journey taken you to become the director of NILE?
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I did a a Renaissance history degree when I was at university, and one of the advantages of that degree was that I got to spend the final term of my course in Venice, in Italy, which is obviously one of the world's most beautiful cities, and it gave me the sense that I wanted not to be based in the UK. I wanted to be able to travel in my career. I wanted to be able to live in different places, and someone suggested the route in to teaching and traveling through a CELTA course. My first class on my first ever teaching experience on CELTA was an absolute disaster, absolutely terrible. I could hardly get the words out and messed up the activity. I'm sure all teachers listening will have had one lesson where nothing goes to plan. It was slightly unfortunate. It was my first ever. But when I got over that shock and horror, I realized this really was something for me, and that I really enjoyed being in the language classroom, working with older teenagers and adult learners initially. And as you mentioned, the first job opportunity I got was to work in Portugal. I think to this day I would have stayed in Portugal. I was very, very happy there. But it was the first destination I'd gone to, and I'd kind of convinced myself that the world was my oyster in terms of being able to see other places. So I then moved on to Australia, and then spent a long time in Thailand, where I did my Delta qualification. And this was really kind of the formative professional development activity that I undertook, and really thought, okay, this is a commitment to my own professional development, but embracing the professional side of that professional development, thinking this is a qualification that's going to take me into more career opportunities. And it gave me that sense of, actually, in each job opportunity, I should be doing something quite concrete, quite systematic, quite planned in terms of my own professional development. And that led me in my next role, which was in Chile, to undertake a master's. So I took an online master's program from Lancaster University, and that in itself led me, the development path kind of took over. And actually, because I'd focused in on language testing and language assessment, that led to a particular set of skills and set of knowledge, competencies we'd probably call them, that were quite specific, but also very useful and very transferable to other roles. And that was in 2010. I completed that, and coincidentally, at the time, I was part of the IATEFL Chile committee, and was looking for a plenary speaker for our conference event. And the person I contacted to sponsor the plenary speaker that I found was the director of NILE. And he said, well, okay, we'll sponsor your plenary speaker, but who are you? And we got talking, and then he told me about NILE and about the possibility of coming to work there. And so because he was an assessment specialist, that link, really due to my own kind of interest and personal development going into the professional development, led me to be offered the job at NILE. And that was now 11 years ago. And I've been at NILE in Norwich ever since. Fantastic opportunity to work with teachers from around the world, and not just me being able to continue that traveling, but also to welcome dozens of different nationalities of teachers, different focus areas from teachers, everything from kindergarten teachers to higher education teachers to Norwich every summer. And obviously through our online programs, that reach just grows. So I get the constant reminder of how lucky I am to have my professional development being inspired by the teachers and the context that I'm lucky enough to work in.
Yeah. And so it sounds like a similar route or a similar feeling that I had at the same, when I also left the UK. I was working in education when I was in the UK. I was working for Manchester City Council. But I felt the same. I wanted to explore the world. I wanted to get out of the UK at that point. This was around the kind of financial difficulties, 2008. That's when I left the UK. But the same, I went to Prague, did my CELTA there, and then I went to Oman and taught. So similar kind of feelings. I guess the question I got for you is, do you miss the teaching part, the classroom? I mean, you spend time with training with teachers, but not so much students anymore, I guess. Do you miss that, the students?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a big part of my kind of ethos about everything else I do in work that comes from that time in the classroom and the beliefs I had as a classroom teacher. And I'm always keen to step back into that world. Next week, I'll be teaching on some of our advanced language certificate courses here at NILE, because it's always important to keep one foot back in the classroom to see if your principles can be carried out in your practice, to keep abreast of changes in methodology and changes in kind of the digital supports that we have in the classroom. And of course, I do a lot of training in the assessment world and the language teaching methodology world. And a lot of that is that experiential learning. So looking at language teaching activities and analysing them and reviewing them and reflecting on them as teacher development activities. So I feel I'm still very close to teaching, and that's very important to me. I think it's certainly, there's a lovely phrase which the coursebook author Hugh Deller uses, which is he fell into a me-shaped hole when he discovered the world of language teaching, and that's very much something that I feel as well, that this is what I was supposed to do. And so every time I'm back in the classroom, I have this kind of sense of relief and release, thinking, okay, this is a space I'm comfortable in, this is something I really enjoy, and everything that takes you away from a spreadsheet and a computer screen is positive in my view.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's been a while since I've taught language students in a classroom. And perhaps the same for you, because you've been working in NILE for quite a long. You've been in NILE for 10 years, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, 11 years now.
11, nice. Do you think that the language classroom is the same or different to when you were actually in the language classroom? Has it changed?
I mean, things have changed, yeah, but I think we're quite specialized in language education, because our content subject, our subject area, is also the vehicle in which we communicate. And so that whole dimension of communication and making meaning, whether we bring other content into that or whether we focus on the nuts and bolts of the language itself, there's only so many changes that can be brought into that, and still keep that belief of language as a vehicle for making meaning. So I think that a lot of the activities that I do are kind of development of activities that I believed were effective when I was teaching in a class, every day, long blocks of teaching time. Those principles that were developed there still, I think, hold true about being. Some of the things that I really focus on are about being a language spy, really mining texts for their richness and looking at how that language that we can take out of texts we work with, whether that's spoken text or written text, becomes part of our own repertoire and becomes part of our students' repertoire, and they can reuse them. And a lot of this has been influenced by the work on mediation in the Common European Framework, and that idea that very often we're not creating newness when we use language. We're negotiating, we're making meaning from somebody else's text, somebody else's work. We're reinterpreting it. We're begging, borrowing, stealing pieces of other people's ideas, and we're repackaging them. And a lot of what students need to do is to be aware of how that language can empower them and can make them more effective language users. So I think all those things held true when I started teaching back in 1996, and those principles still hold true today. Of course, there's much more peripheral support that we can lean on. There's much more ways into the language. There's much richer variety of texts out there. We're no longer in a space where I guess I was in when I started, where me as a proficient speaker and the course book and the materials that I brought into the classroom were the major point of exposure to the language. Now that's completely changed, and actually we have so much exposure to all types of language: authentic language, graded language, language for particular purposes, colloquial language, formal language, that surrounds us in our daily lives, that actually the role in the classroom changes a little bit, and it's about embracing that and being ready for that and being sensitive to that language. But all these principles, I think, are still ones I believed in my earlier teaching career.
Yeah, I think I would agree fundamentally it's still teaching the language, building up students' confidence, getting them out there using it. I think maybe the positive developments are perhaps around I guess, more progressive ideas around, and I guess that's education in general, things like inclusivity and, the importance of understanding the learner, rather than, I guess, I mean, I'm trying to think back when I first started in language teaching. There was a quite a scientific approach to it. You kind of worked your way through, and you did this, and then you did that, and then they're A2, and then they're B1, and everyone was kind of on the same journey. And now that's changed a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think I was actually quite inspired and formed by a single quote that I heard quite early on in my teaching career, which was, remember that every student in your class has a different teacher. And I think that's really profound, because you often think that as a teacher, you are what you create, and you are your identity, and that's what you bring in, and that's what all your professional development contributes to. But actually, for each learner in that class, they're perceiving that in different ways. And so they, as individuals, will see you differently, and they'll respond to things differently, and they'll need different things from you. And that actually gives you a grounding, in a sense that it's not all about me. It's very much about how I can help the learners learn this language, not how I can present content to them.
Yeah, that move from, I guess, teacher-centric to student-centered, I guess. And in fact, we had a podcast last week, and I used a quote in that one, which was, I can't remember exactly, but it was something along the lines of, learning is not the activity of the teacher. Learning is something like the activity of the students. Again, there's stuff around students. I need to look it up, actually. I don't know where it is now. But something along the lines of that. Okay, so I want to bring us back, because we're going to talk a little bit about professional development. In fact, I guess an extension of the question that I just asked, the change in teaching from then to now, we can probably take that forward in terms of have approaches to professional development changed since perhaps when you were in Thailand or Chile or Portugal. I know that CELTAs and DELTAs were available, but have other areas of professional development evolved, I guess, in your opinion?
I think definitely. Yeah, I think there's been an understanding and awareness that professional development is not one thing, that we can have very informal but very effective professional development. We can have very personalized and incidental professional development that happens by chance or by osmosis from being in a staff room or observing a peer's class. But that's then a spectrum right through to quite formalized professional development activities, courses, qualifications, and I think those have increased. The prevalence of different opportunities in the formal end of the spectrum, everything from qualifications like the Cambridge qualifications, the new Trinity College London certificate for practicing teachers, master's programs around the world have been increased in I think quality, but also breadth and diversity within our field, and I think that's great. I think also that there's something we have to guard against, and obviously professional development is often collocates with the C for professional development. I hear it so many times that the C of CPD is continuous professional development, and that for me is a bit dangerous. It isn't continuous professional development, it's continuing professional development. That's where it comes from. And this idea that we should always be developing, and we should always be innovating, we should always be doing something new is a little bit dangerous. I think innovation without consolidation and reflection leads us nowhere. We have to give ourselves time and give ourselves space that development activity is accompanied by reflection and allowing those changes in approaches, perhaps beliefs, to percolate down into your classroom. And I think there's much more acceptance of that. And I get a little bit nervous when I see, you must fulfill X number of hours of professional development in a semester to keep your job. These things seem to me to be kind of the cart before the horse, and that actually what we need to be doing is seeing what's appropriate for us as teachers at a particular time. And sometimes that will be a commitment to a formal qualification, a formal course, whether that's face-to-face, in service, whether that's online, whether that's external qualification. But other times it's good to have that professional development a little bit more personal and a little bit more about consolidating your thoughts and the new ideas in your own classes. I did a presentation for Macmillan as we were coming to the new the awarenesses of what might have changed during the pandemic and the move to online teaching and learning. Really talking about all the different aspects that might make up our professional development, everything from the kind of coffee time sharing activities that you're promoting here, through to action research, through to sharing amongst colleagues in the staff room and informal insets, up to kind of that commitment to writing journal articles, presenting at conferences, taking qualifications. And I think that one thing that's happened is there's been an acknowledgement of the value of all of those different types of professional development, which is very healthy. It's not, if you're not doing a qualification, you're not developing professionally, and that's a good thing to put to bed.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think you're right. I think there's a danger if you try to I guess if the institution tries to overstructure it, it becomes a kind of tick box exercise, and there's a danger that it's not really happening. It just looks like it's happening on paper, type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's definitely a danger of that, I think. But you're right. I think it's nice that there is this range, and I guess things that have been going on with the internet and the developments in technology has given more opportunities, I think, to teachers to be able to engage with different types, as you said, of professional developments in ways that perhaps are more comfortable for their own, personal needs, their own personal circumstances. I think when you really do explore the markets, because I'm based here in MENA, I know teachers from such a wide variety of different contexts that it's not easy for many people. They're juggling perhaps multiple jobs. They've got family commitments. They may have poor internet connection. So there is, for me, there's still a way to go, I think, in terms of making sure that professional development is as inclusive as we want education itself to be. I guess that's my point, I guess.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And the need to contextualize that and to be aware of the surrounding factors, and always, in every context I've been, time pressure and demands on teachers to comply with administration and hours in the classroom are huge, and acknowledging that is a key part of making professional development activity effective, I think.
Yeah. So let's push that onto, because obviously on the screen it says PD planning. So I wanted to kind of move into the planning area, because if there are all of these different types of professional development opportunities, outlets for teachers to get involved with, it can also become very overwhelming. You go into the news agents these days and try to choose a bar of chocolate, and there's 500 varieties to choose from. You've probably done it yourself. You stand there for about 25 minutes, undecided, what should I do? Time, it just goes by. And the same is true for choosing what to do for teachers. There's a lot for them often to choose from, and also finding out about it in the first place. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of planning your PD. How important is that to you? I mean, I'm sure it's going to be very important, being the director of NILE, but give us a little bit about perhaps some advice around that you might give teachers around planning their professional development.
Yeah, I mean, I do think we have to be inspired, and we have to be influenced by the same principles we promote to our learners about the importance of setting goals, and the importance of measuring our progress and being aware of what the routes are to achieve those goals. And just as you can have a lesson that emerges out of a single point, and it can be a fantastic learning experience for everyone, we normally would expect to have some intended learning outcomes from a lesson, and we'd expect to know how we want to take the students to those learning outcomes. And I think it's very similar with professional development. We need to understand where we want to get to. We need to kind of be aware of what the needs are and where those needs have come from. Are they intrinsic needs? Are they things that, look, this is an area I'm really interested in, whether that's working with learners with specific learning differences that I've noticed is something that I don't know enough about, or whether that's I really want to be able to embrace a particular new modality of teaching, whether that's online or hybrid teaching, or incorporate more of the available technology in my classroom, whether that's actually I'm really interested in moving into a more specific part of our sector, like materials writing or testing and assessment, or becoming a teacher trainer, or whether that's an interest in working in a slightly different context, working with a different age of learners, or working in a bilingual education setting. All of these things might be very intrinsic. It may be that we have an extrinsic importance for this, something that our institution or our school needs us to do, or needs to develop a capacity in, a change that's been imposed externally, maybe a new aspect of the curriculum, maybe a requirement to incorporate an external framework in your internal syllabus design. So all of these influences can give us a sense of where our outcomes need to be. And that can give us a sense of, okay, what's manageable for me in terms of my time commitment, in terms of financial commitment, in terms of my work-life balance, and also my development versus day-to-day teaching balance. And unless we're kind of a little bit systematic and a little bit considerate to ourselves in thinking these things through, it does become overwhelming. And you just think, wow, when am I ever going to find the time for this? Everybody else is doing this. Should I be doing this? Should I be following them? But I think professional development needs to have that personal element to it, of the ownership of the professional development for yourself, and not feel it's something you're being pushed onto the roller coaster unwillingly, and seeing where it takes you.
Yeah. So I guess important part of that planning aspect, as you mentioned, is making sure it's manageable, making sure that you can do it within the context of your own reality. I guess that's super important. And I guess like what you're saying is just take a little time. I guess be reflect. And I guess in your teaching career, I mean, you've clearly done this. I certainly did it throughout. Is to I guess try lots of different things and then see where your interests then start to take you, rather than feel like I'm going to do this and I'm going to stick with that for my whole career. I'm going to be a language assessment person. That's it. Try everything, see what really suits you. And then I guess, then focus down, I guess, reading, attending conferences, taking courses, whatever it is. Yeah, people are agreeing with you in the chat box there as well, definitely.
Absolutely. And I think that opening yourself up to those opportunities, and to seeing, okay, what are the opportunities within my institution? Can I be involved with this team working on this project, or can I be involved in this this new opportunity, or put myself forward to lead an inset, or mentor a new teacher? All of these things contribute to our own professional development. I kind of think in that first year of teaching, you're kind of head down in your class, just trying to get through your lessons. And then in the second year, you start to look around you a bit more within your institution, and you start to be aware of what other teachers are doing, and hopefully have the opportunity to share and observe other peers in that setting. But it's probably not until about the third year that you actually lift your head up and look around you at the educational sector, and what opportunities are there: conferences, published writings, of course the internet as a resource. And when you do that, when you do lift your head up and look around at all those opportunities, you think, oh, well, actually, that's something that has caught my attention or piqued my interest, and that's something that I'm going to explore, rather than thinking, well, this was the route I started on, so I better stay on it like a train track.
Yeah, and you reminded me, we had not the last podcast, but the one before, and we were talking about that career pathways. I think a lot of people think that you're going to go teacher to teacher trainer, but we had a big discussion around the fact that there are loads of different career pathways in English language teaching. There was management, there was, like say, materials development, training is one. So yeah, I guess look around, communicate. I think the importance of communication is key. Asking people questions. What is it like to actually do that? And I guess that brings us back to this conversation, having this conversation with you, asking what it's like to be, to have moved into the director of NILE and be doing training, and these different types of things, I think is really important to share and to listen to each other, the teachers.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's just something we do. We're very conscious of at NILE. So in the courses we design, they are designed to kind of empower teachers to take that next step, whether that is a course on material development, or whether that's a course on testing and assessment, or whether that's a course on syllabus design, or whether that's a course on becoming a teacher trainer. It kind of acknowledges those different routes, or becoming a manager, or mentoring new teachers. You know, that there are very different routes, but each one has its own kind of underlying principles and theories and background reading and frameworks to understand and to evaluate for yourself. And so there is still structure within all these different career pathways, I think.
Yeah, and you've moved me nicely onto NILE, because obviously NILE is a big provider of professional development for teachers, not just in MENA but around the world. And you do a variety of things. So you do everything from masters through to CELTAs, deltas, and these online courses. So obviously, we're going to move on in a minute to the draw, which is going to be for one of these online courses. So let's talk a little bit about, because there's 20 of these courses that are available. And some of them are what I would call kind of like the classic courses, you know, teaching young learners, teaching pre-primary. There's one about materials development. But there's a few others that are newer, right? A little bit more interesting, I think, that people might be interested in. So tell us a little bit about the range of online courses that the NILE do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we try and develop as an institution in the same way that we're talking about teachers developing as individuals and teachers developing collectively as well. So you're right, there are those kind of more traditional methodology refreshers, working with particular age groups. So we have courses in teaching in pre-primary education, courses on teaching young learners. One of our new courses, which we haven't really had before in that suite of courses, is a new course launching in September, all really focused on teaching teenagers, teaching in that kind of 12 to 17-year-old age range. And the course really explores some of the new understandings of the teenage brain and development of the teenage brain and the teenager in education and the teenager in the wider world, and brings in aspects of diversity and inclusion and learning differences and that development in the teenage brain. So I think that's a fascinating new course which is about to be launched in September. And then we have these courses which really focus on career specialization. I've mentioned those previously, kind of this idea of moving on your career pathway from teacher to trainer is one of our courses, and then the extension of that trainer development, where you become a trainer of trainers potentially, or a more confident teacher trainer. The courses which really focus on what you can do to support in your institution, the materials development course, really evaluating materials and perhaps moving into becoming a materials writer. Syllabus design and development, another online course, which is all about how you structure a sequence of learning, a course, a whole syllabus, how it fits with a curriculum. A new course which has proved very popular in the last 12 months is our techniques and approaches to blended, hybrid and online teaching. And you can understand where the motivation for that development has come and the interest in it. So hundreds of teachers, and particularly many teachers across the Middle East and North Africa region, have taken that course with us, really looking at what are the techniques and the tools you need to become aware of to really feel confident with these changes that are going on around us in the wider world, but also in educational settings. And then courses which acknowledge the importance of, or the growing importance of content and language integrated learning, whether that's in the bilingual education school setting. A new course which we launched recently was the English medium instruction course, how to teach through English in higher education settings. And our CLIL course for teaching other subjects through English in primary or secondary has always been a very popular one. So I think there's a very broad range there, with new courses coming out. And another new course which we're looking to launch this year or early next year will be on challenging perspectives in language education, challenging the orthodoxy of what we expect to see in the materials, in the approaches, in our students' behaviours in a classroom, and really challenging ourselves to think how that fits with the modern world and approaches in the modern world. So we like to think we develop and we innovate, but there's still that structure. And of course, one of the things that we're most proud of is our master's program. And our master's program is fully available online, and many of our online courses also function as elective modules in the master's program. So you can kind of upgrade your professional development qualification into part of a master's qualification, which I think is important. I know Natalia has been one of our students. Natalia, I remember well from being here in actually in my first year at NILE. Natalia was here with us in Norwich. And yeah, graduated with her MA. Lovely to see you here, Natalia.
Yeah, that's nice. I could see a few people, writing in the chat box there. I like the idea of this this new course, Challenging Perspectives. Maybe I'll sign up for that one. Sounds like that's the kind of thing that's right down my street, really. Okay, so the online courses, because some people may not have seen them before, how are they structured? What would they expect? They run over 8 weeks?
Yeah, a standard NILE online course. There are variations, but a standard NILE course involves 8 weeks of largely asynchronous tutor-led learning. So our principle is very much that learning a teacher, particularly teacher professional development, should be co-constructed. So the triangulation between the trainer, the NILE trainer, the experienced expert in the course, the materials, the multimedia rich resources, videos, articles, conversations, but also the other participants on a course. All our courses are quite small, maximum 16 participants. So what you learn from your peers internationally through a course is that triangulation. You get all of that input, and that helps your development. And the tutor's leading that through the asynchronous activities, video-based activities, forum-based activities, assignment-based activities, brainstorming activities. And then there are, over those 8 weeks, there are some synchronous live sessions, so opportunities to speak and discuss and review the content. And then after the 8 weeks, there's an assignment writing period, usually 4 weeks, where you get to put your learning into practice, and that's the basis of the certification from the course, kind of the proof of the pudding, in terms of applying that to your own context, taking the principles from the course and making them meaningful for you in your own professional context.
Okay, well, they sound great. I think we should let's give a couple of them away, shall we? Let's get to the fun part. People have been
Absolutely.
hanging around.
Here we go. Yes.
Listening to us talking, and they're just thinking to themselves, well, this all sounds great, but I want to get one of them. So let's move on to the draw, shall we? I know we've got quite a few people here in the chat box, so some of them I'm sure have submitted. So I think they're in with a chance themselves.
Absolutely. So, good luck.
For those of you who are in the background and listening, or if you are joining us later trying to catch up, we have put everybody's keyword. So everybody who is eligible for the draw, I gave them, or you have, your name is matched with a keyword. So Tom doesn't know who has submitted what. He just has, in fact, I will bring it up. He just has a very large word cloud full of words. Each of the words I have taken from our Advancing Futures initiative. So this is something we're really heavily promoting. We talked a lot about inclusivity towards the beginning of the podcast. So basically, I just tried to come up with as many words as I possibly could, all around this theme of advancing the future of education and the future of advancing, the future of English language teaching. So there's a whole variety of things in here. Tom's challenge now is to go through all of these words and pick one. Well, actually, Tom, you can pick two. And I guess I'd like you to tell me why you chose them. Perhaps that would be nice as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you
okay.
Them, I will match them to the name on my spreadsheet. So, and then I will announce who they are.
Well, it's a fantastic set of words. I mean, there's a session in this word cloud itself, isn't there? Thinking about how all of these contribute to education and to teachers' lives. I'm going to start with one. The first one I'm going to choose, and good luck to everybody there. It is something I've mentioned a couple of times, something I really believe in terms of the purpose of professional development. And it's a word right in the middle there. It's a smaller word in the word cloud, but it's that idea of empowering. To empower teachers, I think, is really the goal of professional development. Professional development is not something that's imposed to develop an institution. It's to empower the teachers to feel the confidence and the quality and the competencies that in turn will support their institutional goals, but more importantly, will support their learners' goals. So professional development that's empowering, that makes people take that next step and feel that they've moved themselves into a new space, a new confidence, not getting out of the comfort zone, but expanding your comfort zone, making your comfort zone bigger and broader and more effective for your context. So the first winner is the person who owns the word empower.
Yes, and I got the spreadsheet, and it is someone called Iman Ramadan Dasuki, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably not, but they're from Egypt, and I will reach out to them if they are not with us this afternoon. I know lots of people are probably teaching at this time, so we will reach out to them.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Iman is our first winner, which is amazing. And I mean, personally for me, I've done lots of work around advancing futures this academic year. And I have to say, Empower is, I gave a keynote actually at the TESOL conference in Kuwait, and empowerment was a big part of that talk. I think really when you get down to it, that the heart of education is empowering people. That's really for me the key purpose is to make life better for humanity. It's improving the person, but to improve their position in society, and to keep empowering others. I think that's a really key part of education, empowering another person, but then sending them off to further empower other people as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's one of the most rewarding parts of my role, knowing that empowering teachers means that you're influencing their empowerment of learners, and that's incredibly rewarding.
Yes, I would totally agree from my position here at Macmillan as well, as a trainer, empowering teachers and reminding them that should always feed into the language classroom and to their students, really. You know, we're not doing it just to improve you, we're doing it to make your classrooms and your students' experiences more empowering and, like you say, better. Let me write down the person's full name in the chat box. Give me a second. Well, Thom has a little think about which word he's going to choose second. We have two prizes for this. That's the name of the person, Iman Ramadan Suki from Bloom Language School in Egypt. So, Thom, you got a second?
Yeah, there's so much good stuff here. I think one of the things that I've learned from the experiences of the past 3 years are that whilst every person's classroom is their own space and they take responsibility for that, we need to have our support networks. We need to feel we're not alone. We need to feel, whether that's within our institution, within our personal learning networks, within other groups that we join, within, for example, committees and subgroups and teachers associations and informal teacher networks and the staff room, we get that sense of togetherness. And so I think that's a really important word, and it's the second word I'm going to choose. And I think what you're doing with these podcasts and the people who are here is that spirit of togetherness. And I think it's an appropriate winning word for what we need to do as teachers, as we continue to face all the challenges and changes in our contemporary world.
Amazing, yeah. So the second word is togetherness, and this is I'm assuming this is a lady, Tatiana Valerie Petrosharuda from Jordan. So Al Rashad Modern School is the owner of this word. And ironically, actually, she, I think, only submitted the survey yesterday. So she got it right in there at the last minute. So there you go. That just shows that it's never too late to get in there at the last.
The hare and the tortoise.
Yes, look at that. So let me write her full name again, also in the chat box. I don't think she is with us. It's a long name, this one. Yeah. Perfect. And again, yeah, like this idea of togetherness, a huge purpose of education, bringing people together, communicating, all of these types of things. So yeah, amazing. So congratulations to both of our winners. We will get in touch with you. I think, Thom, we are prepared. I certainly am. I can meet with the two guys to talk to them about the range of courses that are on offer and their own professional development ambitions, I guess, so that we can perhaps give them some advice on what it is they might want to choose to do. So they can take advantage of that. And if you're free, you're more than welcome to join us. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and to those people who didn't win, to contact you about the Macmillan offers for other NILE courses, because the coming through Macmillan is the best discounted price on NILE courses in the world.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, so if you do want to take any of the NILE courses, certainly reach out to me, and I will help you make sure that you get the best discount, because NILE, as we know, is an official Macmillan Education partner. So the best price for a NILE course comes through us at Macmillan. So definitely get in touch if you're even thinking about considering taking a NILE course. And again, I'm certainly, anyone in the MENA region, if you want to talk to me one-on-one about your own professional development, your ambitions, and you're thinking about doing a NILE and you want to talk to me about it, I'd be more than happy to meet with anyone here as well. Okay, Thom, we're kind of gone over time a bit, but it's so exciting to have this big discussion around professional development. Obviously, the prize draw was fantastic. We normally finish with some teaching tips. Now, I actually looked up and you actually gave 3 tips on the equals page, which I liked, all 3 of them. In fact, I'll read them. First one was to make sure you spend time talking to, I'm assuming, teachers about their jobs and their roles and what challenges they have, as it makes the workplace a much more engaged place if you understand each other. And I think actually that kind of is the essence, like you just said, of this podcast, right? Is people sharing about their experiences, not feeling like they're isolated, not feeling like they're alone. And also, you know, if you do want to find out all of the options that are available in education, the best way of doing that is to talk to other people, really. So that was the first one. The second one was watch as many colleagues' lessons as you can, do peer observation and discussion, because it's a wonderful way to develop techniques, ideas, and also confidence in your own approach to teaching and training, which again is paramount. And the last one is, when you're ready for a new step, take your professional development seriously. If you want to be taken seriously in our sector. Now those, you actually wrote those quite a long time ago. I think 2018 was that webpage was published. Would you stick with those 3 tips, or would you have any others now? It's a few years later.
Yeah, I like those. I think it's always nice when you hear something you've said previously that you still agree with. Doesn't happen all the time, but yeah, I think, you know, I'm such an advocate of that idea of what you can learn from the people around you, or what learning you can emit to the people around you. I think it's so valuable when you're in a space where you do have colleagues, that you learn from them and they learn from you, particularly taking on the responsibility of mentoring and bringing in new people to the profession. It's such an important part of a new teacher's development to feel they've got that support from colleagues. And yeah, I think if you want to be taken seriously, you know, you take yourself seriously and take that professional development seriously. The opportunities are out there, and that step will give you that confidence, but it will also reflect that confidence in how people view you. So fortunately, I'm able to stand by all 3.
Good, excellent. And I think we've given quite a few other pieces of advice throughout the podcast. So For anyone who is coming in, watching perhaps the recording, definitely go back and then think a bit about some of the things that we've said around professional development. Okay, so my iced tea, it's come to an end. I'm sure your tea probably has as well. So I'd like to thank you again so much for joining us this morning, Thom. It's been absolutely fantastic to listen to your experiences, learn a little bit about NILE and the NILE online courses. And again, thank you for joining us to hold our prize draw and for choosing the 2 winners for us this afternoon. Of course, thank you to everybody that's joined us in the chat box today, people that have been given their own comments. It's been great to see. And congratulations to our 2 winners. But also, I do want to personally thank everybody who submitted the MENA Insights. I know we only had 2 courses that could be a winner, but actually the information that people have provided in the survey entrance that they've done gives us a lot of insight into the market, and it's really going to help us develop our professional development activities for the coming year. So a big part of that Insights Index is us as a publisher reflecting, learning, making sure that what we put together, we produce and we deliver is needed and relevant to you guys in the MENA context. So I definitely want to thank everybody. If I haven't sent you your certificate yet, I will. I sent quite a few of them yesterday, but there's a few left to send out. I'll try and do them today or perhaps tomorrow. In the meantime, though, from Thom and myself, Thom, thank you very much again.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And good luck with your professional development. And congratulations to you, Nathan, for the Tea Time podcast.
Yeah, thanks very much. And this is actually the season finale. So we are going to take a break over the summer. I'm heading off to Colombia tomorrow for 3 weeks. And then when we get back, we will be planning out the back to school season. So from late August, early September, we will be here with the back to school program. And we will reach out to you all to let you know what's going on in that. And I'm sure from late August, we will commence with season 2 of the ELTea Time MENA podcast. And of course, we hope that we will see all of you for that as well. In the meantime, I'm going to go off and melt in the Dubai sunshine for the rest of the day. Thom, enjoy the clouds of Norwich. I'm sure you will.
Indeed. Yes. I don't think I'd swap, Nathan, but have a great holiday.
Thank you very much. And best of luck with all of the NILE courses over the summer. It's quiet for me, but I know that for you, this is a really busy time of year. So best of luck to you and all of the teachers that are coming to NILE or are doing their courses online. I hope everything goes well with all of those guys.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you again very soon. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all in August. Take care, Thom, and see you all soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.